This is Upfront on the Voice of America. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Now, April 2nd is World Autism Day. And autism spectrum disorder, or just autism as we know it in common parlance, is said to be one of the most common neurodevelopmental disorders. That's according to the WHO. The WHO further documents that autism affects 1 out of every 160 children. But as prevalent as it is in mostly developed countries, autism is also one of the least known global health issues. There has not been enough research or the kind of body of work in terms of research terms, body of knowledge about this condition. The good news is that is changing, partly because people are now talking about autism. There's more research targeting autism, but it's obvious that there's a lot more to learn about this condition. And it's also important to note, rather obviously, that the lack of knowledge about autism, a non-communicable disease, is much more amplified in Africa, where public health systems are struggling to deal with communicable diseases like TB and many others, let alone a more complex issue like this one. So one of the consequences of our lack of understanding of autism, including its symptoms and ways to treat it, is that people with autism and their families are faced with the stress of dealing with a child with a neurodevelopment disorder, while at the same time dealing with the ignorance and social stigma around autism. But like I said earlier, things are certainly getting better, at least in terms of mobilizing resources and directing some of those resources towards more research on autism. And this will go a long way in giving us a better understanding of autism. It will also help change some of the existing attitudes towards this condition. More health professionals and activists, including my guest today, Susan Gakwavu, are working to bring more attention to autism in Africa. She joins me in studio.
First of all, autism, like you said, is something that people have not really touched, and it's becoming an issue here in United States and even in Africa. And having been into the autism society and working with children with autism, I developed a passion and had to go back home and open the foundation or a program for those children.
Okay. When did you get interested in this? When did you start? Is there a personal connection to this issue?
Yes, I would say that actually there is a personal issue. Growing up, having a sister who had the same issue, watching my mother doing what she was doing, and the awareness and education and what to do was lacking. And I believe that they didn't have anything, to do with that, even knowing the particular, disease or sickness. So coming in America 15 years ago, I went into a program, and someone introduced me into autism, and that's where my passion and my journey began.
You gained interest in that. Was she officially diagnosed by a doctor?
Actually, no, but having worked with children now, I can relate.
You can tell.
Yes, I can relate that it's the same. Exactly. So,
where is she right now? Is your sister?
My sister died at the age
I'm
of.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, at age of 26, and actually, I think one of the reasons why she died that early is because of lack of information.
Right. So there's a general ignorance.
Exactly
about autism. Right.
But
what are some of the misconceptions around autism?
Around autism, autism right now, I would say that at the age of 3 or 4, people or parents can know that my son has autism or Down syndrome. But during that time, it was nothing like that. So for me, when it comes to my sister, she developed this at the age of 14. And I wish if we had known that probably if we had doctors and we would see the changes, probably they would have detected it at the early age. And because of lack of medication, she developed seizures and she ended up dying.
Right.
So I think right now where we are, I thank people who are coming out, bringing out awareness and speaking every day about autism. And I think when we speak and get parents involved, the chance of getting them into a better life is high.
Okay, so your sister's condition situation led you onto this path, or inspired you to become an activist for autism, and you founded you have a foundation based in Uganda right now. Tell us about some of the things that you do and you're doing right now, and you hope to do in the future.
Yeah, actually, when I started, I didn't even remember about my sister, but it's during that journey of working with them in California, and I remembered, how my sister was, and I'm like, you know what, this is the same thing, the same disease.
You worked with autistic people.
Yes, and I'm
people
still
with
working
autism in California.
Yes.
Are you a healthcare professional?
I am an applied behavior analysis.
Okay.
So it's where I really developed a feeling that, there are so many people in Africa that are being affected.
You were doing this in California, but
California.
you felt that there was a greater need in Africa to focus, to highlight this issue.
To bring the awareness, to speak. And that's where my journey with New Life Foundation started.
What happens to a kid when they have autism in say growing up in Uganda or in East Africa or any part of Africa right now?
Yeah, in most cases parents don't even know what autism is. Some of them think maybe the kids are cursed or bewitched, and what they do, they keep them indoors, and part of that probably is because they don't know what to do. And most of them are single mothers who have really, the husband have abandoned them because they believe in
the witchcraft,
or the woman is cursed, or, so many things like that. But, as we go on with awareness, as we come out and speak about it, we are really seeing a big change with the parents and also the children.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's just a general change in attitudes.
And also accepting.
Right.
Accepting that it's autism. This kid, as much as he's different, but he or she has a special skills.
Right.
We can, work on that and develop and make a difference.
Those are some of the things that you can do outside of the healthcare system.
Exactly.
But how strong are the healthcare systems in the affected countries that your foundation is working in terms of dealing with autism?
Exactly. Again, the healthcare on autism, I wouldn't say that it's good, because we are struggling to find the doctors who can diagnose these children and to say that, this child is autistic or this child has a Down syndrome. And this is where we are calling upon, government or Minister of Health, to come on board and try to help these parents with their children.
The World Health Organization says that even though there is no known cure for autism, there are various interventions available to healthcare professionals and caretakers of children with autism. That's when the child is diagnosed early on in life. And some research has shown that these interventions can lead to an improvement in the quality of life for people with autism and their families. Gakwavu tells me that it would take resources. However, even the little resources that are available are not known to the people who need them the most.
Let me talk about Autism Society. Autism Society is a big society where they can really come into a country and help set up and train, but then they need a special invitation from Minister of Education or Minister of Health. So when they come, definitely they carry many.
So the Autism Society is an international organization based here in the US?
Yes.
And you're saying that the only way they can make an entry into a healthcare system of any country is that they have to be invited?
Exactly.
Do people in the healthcare ministry, for example, know that they need to ask?
And actually that's where New Life Foundation and other foundation comes in to speak out, to reach out into the Minister of Education, Minister of Health, to bring out the awareness.
To create those
linkages.
To
create the linkages because most of them don't even know. Even in Minister of Health, they don't know what autism is. Probably they know, but they tend to not focus on it because they don't see people coming out and speaking about it.
Is there treatment for autism?
There's no treatment. as of now, but we have things we can do to make them better people.
Do we know what causes autism?
Not at this point.
The science is not yet there.
Not yet.
Research is still ongoing on what causes autism.
Yes, and that's why we are trying to come up with this conference like the one in Nairobi in April. We are bringing in all African countries, and we are bringing in researchers, educators, doctors to speak and to let people know what's happening, especially we in Africa, whereby we don't get this kind of conference to talk about autism. So I think...
So you have, let me just make sure that people get it. You have a Pan-African conference on autism that is taking place, that you're organizing in Nairobi in this year, 2019, April?
Yes.
You said April?
Yes.
Okay. And you're bringing in healthcare professionals and other individuals that are connected to autism.
Yes, a parent, therapist. So we are calling upon Africans. We are expecting over 40 countries, African countries, to come together and learn and share and talk about autism in our continent. Because as much as we live here and we work with children here, but we also have our own children back home and things which are different. But again, we have people who are really into that field that we have to team up and try to make a difference.
Right. Susan, thank you very much for coming in today. We wish you the best of luck as you bring attention to this very important cause, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you so much for having me.